Filling in for Bob today, I'm your host, Michael Bauer. Joined tonight by, he's got many names, the Bald Dome of Dynasty, Lumberjack Zack, and our very own Florida man, Zack Duarte. Zack, hello. It's been a while since we recorded together.
Yes, and I'm still alive through 2 hurricanes in the last 3 weeks, and now solo parenting as the wifey is out of town. I'm still alive. I'm still here.
Zack, you look tired, but tonight we're going to be talking about some moves to make. And before we get into it, you guys have some moves to make too. Make sure you hit like, you hit subscribe, and hey, if you want to come join our Discord, we're giving you a week for free. Patreon.com/Dynasty Rewind. Lots of great stuff in there. Get some bonus pods as well. They're fantastic. So let's get into it, Zack. What is your first move to make this week?
Fun week, right? A lot of injuries, a lot of bye week situations, right? But I talk with Bob a lot about an ever-evolving dynasty process, and I think that's where I want to go this week, Mike. And so for me, my move to make is believing more in proven commodities. Now, have we all not learned our lesson from rookie players yet? I was very badly burned by Kendre Miller last year, and I'm starting
this year, by the way.
Yeah, but you kind of had that, like, when that happens one year, it can happen again. And you're going to talk about one of these rookies, I think, coming up here in a little bit, so I don't want to spoil that. But look, the quarterbacks, they've been decent. It's been 6 weeks. A lot of quarterbacks look good, and teams start to pick up on their tendencies or play defenses a little bit better on them. So I don't want to poo-poo the quarterbacks, but they do look good. They do look good thus far. Even Bo Nix, in a terrible situation, has looked decent and has, if you just look at Bo Nix's fantasy numbers, he's been all right. He's been okay. Yeah. But, I want to specifically look more at the running backs here in this conversation. We can always talk about the wide receivers. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people that drafted Marvin Harrison Jr. and Rome Odunze are not feeling good about that. But, hey, the people who drafted Malik Neighbors and Brock Bowers are feeling good about it. So I want to look more at the running backs here and just say, hey, look, do we remember what the offseason was like when we had this Hopium Love Fest with Marshawn Lloyd, Trey Sermon, and Blake Corum? Do we remember that? Because I remember that, and I know for sure for certain I was not on the Blake Corum train. I was on the Marshawn Lloyd train. This is somebody who you might discuss here in a little bit. How's that rookie running back Love Fest going for you guys? Because it's not been very fun. It's not been great. So what I want to do here is kind of fade rookie running backs. And this is not specifically this week. This is kind of like my mentality shifting forward. Now, look, I will always love rookie running backs at the right price. And I think that's the conversation where the conversation needs to go. But that's a whole nother video for a whole nother day. Let's look at the top performing running backs right now, Mike. Running backs 1 through 3 are Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, and Saquon Barkley, who all hit that sell age 4 years ago. Like, we were all selling, maybe not all, okay, but a lot of us were selling Alvin Kamara for the last 2 years. Good Lord knows I was. Big mistake. Derrick Henry, I think, was maybe not a player I was selling, but it's not somebody I was like trying to go out there and get. And same with Saquon Barkley, although I did like the situation of him in Philadelphia, because any running back in Philadelphia is going to do great, and he's an elite athlete. But then we can take this conversation even further. Joe Mixon, James Conner, David Montgomery, they were all cheap offseason acquisitions, and they're all top 15 running backs in points per game right now through week 6. Now, obviously, there's still 2 teams that are playing as of this recording, but I can't account for them. But those running backs, older running backs, not players that were highly coveted in the offseason, and they're all performing very adequately for your fantasy teams right now. So, look, it's easy to get excited about rookie running backs and young running backs, but moving forward, Mike, I think I'm going to employ a better approach to veteran players and more specifically proven point scorers at the running back position. I'm not saying that I'm fading all rookie running backs and just going heavy into the older running backs, but I think that we need to shift our philosophy in this afraid of age, specifically at the running back position, and just more so look at older running backs in a 1-year snapshot and say, how can they help my fantasy team now? So, no buys and sells here in this video. I'm just saying that I'm starting to see a shift in my philosophy and the way that I'm approaching some of my dynasty leagues and say, hey, let's get off this hopium. Let's get off these younger players and let's wait for them to perform. And I think a good one, by the way, is Brian Robinson. Like, I was not a fan of Brian Robinson, but after his rookie year, I was. And he's a very safe, secure running back. He's never going to be, an alpha running back, but he will always be a guy that you can feel comfortable putting in your starting lineup or in the flex. For me, Mike, my move to make is just believing in more proven commodities in the fantasy landscape moving forward.
I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach, but I do have reasons why. I'm going to trade for Packers running back Marshawn Lloyd. Now, that being said, this is not a move that I'm making if I'm a contending team. And based on what some of my teams did this past week, based on, bye weeks and injuries, there's a lot of them that don't look like they will be. He is eligible to return this week. He did battle some injuries in the offseason. I got it on here. He had a hip injury in training camp. For his preseason debut, he had a hamstring injury, and in his regular season debut, he had an ankle injury. Concerning, yes. Kendre Miller, not yet. But we know what Marshawn Lloyd is. It's a good runner between the tackles and outside. Great receiving back too. Kind of underrated in that regard. So eligible to return this week. Let's see if he does come back. Nick Chubb also eligible to return this week too. Interesting to see how the Browns deploy him. And again, I'm not buying Marshawn Lloyd for right now. Not for this week or next week. This is going to be, again, I'm not contending. I think I'm going to be out of it. He could be some good depth down the line. You got to plug somebody in your lineup, but this is more for next year. Zach, you probably want to know what he cost. There's some trades that I got over from my friends at Fantasy Calc. You probably wouldn't do this one, but Ray Davis straight up for Marshawn Lloyd.
That's a totally fine move. We're recording this in the middle of the Monday Night Football game, and Ray Davis is looking phenomenal.
Yeah.
I think that's a move that you could make, and you could even label as handcuff for handcuff. But I definitely would want Marshawn Lloyd over Ray Davis.
Okay. Next one, 25 third, which was about roughly where he was drafted in this past draft, give or take.
Yeah, I think that's one you could get done now. You probably couldn't have got that done 4 or 5 weeks ago, but him battling all these injuries, you might have somebody hitting the panic meter on Marshawn Lloyd.
For sure. And this one, pretty easy to me. Rico Dowdle for Marshawn Lloyd.
Yeah, Rico Dowdle's not a bad little player, and Mike McCarthy did talk today about wanting to get him involved more in the offense. Rico Dowdle is one of those players that I talked about that you kind of just want to look in the 1 year snapshot. But Mike, overall, I like this because, and I know I just talked about fading the younger running backs, but you look at the Green Bay situation, right? They employ a running back too. Emmanuel Wilson, I believe, is the running back too, and he's been around, not any kind of fantasy good, but they use him in that offense. And Josh Jacobs has been very inefficient. He's kind of just carried over the same statistics that he had last year with the Raiders. And so I think at a certain point, Marshawn Lloyd is going to get worked into that offense as soon as he shows that he's healthy. But look, this could be Kendre Miller 2.0 at the same time. So with these trades that you labeled here, I at least believe that you're minimizing the risk with not a great loss if it is Kendre Miller 2.0.
Zach, you want to hit the panic meter a little bit?
Sure, Mike. It's, we did this last week. I think it's a good segment to kind of carry over. And someone that we did talk about last week, Mike, was Travis Etienne. And I said, lukewarm panic meter. And then this week happened. 3 carries, -1 yard, another injury. These injuries, like, I don't know, man.
Hamstring, I think.
Yeah, last week it was the shoulder. This week it's the hamstring.
Yeah.
Then Dearness Johnson is out snapping Tank Bigsby. Like, what is happening there in Jacksonville? I don't really understand. So look, last week I was at a 6. This week I'm at a 9. I'm freaked out if I'm a Travis Etienne owner. And here's the thing. I can no longer plug him into my starting lineup, Mike, and feel safe about it. Like, I don't feel like I can get 10 points at a Travis Etienne when now for I think 2 weeks in a row. I think he did come back last week into that game. But this week left after 3 carries. I'm just not sure what's happening in Jacksonville. Then you look at the game script too. Their defense can't stop a nosebleed. So they're down every game, 14, 17, 20-0. That kind of takes the running game out of it, although Etienne is a pass catching running back as well. But I'm almost at a full-blown 10 here, Mike. What about you?
I'm at an 8 right now, just because the running back position is spotty. They have boomer bust weeks. The injuries concern me. A lot of people when Doug Peterson was in Philadelphia, he was the play caller offensively. I did just get some confirmation on a quick Google search. Press Taylor is calling the plays in Jacksonville. And let's not forget, Press Taylor is part of the reason that Doug Peterson was no longer employed by the Philadelphia Eagles after the 2020 season. I'm sorry, the horrific 2020 season that was his last in Philadelphia. One of the things was Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman wanted to move on from Press Taylor. He was loyal to him. It got him out of the league for a year, and it got him down in Jacksonville. So, this is a team that is struggling right now. Doug Peterson should really reconsider taking back play calling duties. If that happens, I would be much more comfortable. So the thing is, a lot of people are calling for Doug Peterson to be fired. What you really want is Press Taylor to be fired and Doug Peterson to retake control of the play calling. And maybe Trevor Lawrence would look better again, like he did in 2022. Maybe this run game would look much, much better. But I'm at an 8 on the panic meter for Travis Etienne. If I have him anywhere, he's hard to put in the lineups like Mark Andrews was for the first part of the season.
Let's move on real quick. Sam Laporta, Detroit Lions tight end, the tight end 1 in fantasy last season.
Yeah.
Can I just say something?
You can.
I think we can all hate on Jameson Williams right now because he is taking away from everyone else in that offense. He's taking away from Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's taking away from Sam Laporta, not necessarily taking away from the running backs because that's their bread and butter, but even Tim Patrick's getting involved in that damn off. It is very frustrating to be a Sam Laporta owner. One thing before you get to your point here, Mike, I'm at a 7 with Sam Laporta, and the reason is exactly what I mentioned. He is not getting targeted. Through 5 games this year, he only has 5 targets in 1 game. Only 1 target this week. It was a 52-yard touchdown pass, but that is just unreliable. That you cannot rely on your tight end getting 2 targets. He literally has 1 game of 1 target, 1 game of 2 targets, 1 game of 3 targets, 1 game of 4, and 1 game of 5. It is, and you look at last year, that was not the case. 11 targets, 11 targets, 7 targets, 10 targets, 9, 8, 12, 7. That was not happening last year. So anybody who wants to talk about touchdown regression, fine. But he is getting hit in the targets, which is what hurts. So I'm at a 7 with him. I'm just like you said, Mark Andrews. I don't know how many more weeks I can plug Sam Laporta into my lineup and take that massive tight end loss with the little amount of work that he's getting here, Mike. So I'm at a 7, and it's getting to the panic button here with Sam Laporta for me.
I'm at a 5. I don't want to overreact too much. I get where you're at with 7. I don't 1000% disagree with it. But look, we have to also think about Sam Laporta was a rookie last year, kind of an anomaly. They didn't know what to expect. Now there's a year of film on Sam Laporta. Defensive coordinators have had a year to adjust. I read a really good article this past week. I wish I knew who wrote it. Sorry, person who wrote it. And it talked about Jalen Hurts' regression from 22 to 23. 22 was kind of a breakout year. They didn't know what to expect. And then 23, you have all this film on him. Obviously, he's been struggles this year. Same can be said about Sam Laporta. They know how to guard this guy. He's not getting the open looks like he was in the last year. And you hate to be mad at Jameson Williams because this was kind of what we've been hoping for all along. I'm happy for Jameson Williams. Sad that I had sold off all the Jameson Williams shares that I had, and now he's blowing up like this. But good for him. I'm at a 5. I know he could still do it because he's done it.
I don't disagree. Like, that's a real thing. That happens. Teams get, like we talked about the rookie quarterbacks earlier. That's going to happen. They're going to get film on these guys. But like I said, he's just not getting targeted.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of like, oh, he's getting 8 targets and he's only catching 4 and he's not as open. He's just not getting targeted. And when you're not getting targeted, you're just not getting the opportunities. And so I can't sit here and tell you, oh, his route running has taken a dip, his separation percentage, none of that. All I can say is he's not getting the same amount of work in that offense, and Jameson Williams is a big reason why. So that's why I'm a little bit more panicking on Sam Laporta than you. And then one last one, Mike, is Anthony Richardson. To me, I'm still going to say I'm at a 5 with Anthony Richardson, but I will say this. If I can move off of him, I would like to move off of him because the talent is there. He is a quote-unquote cheat code when he is healthy. But the problem is he's never healthy. And he plays a style of football that I was very worried about Jaden Daniels, where it's kind of this reckless abandon. And he throws his body around. He doesn't take hits well. He doesn't know when to get rid of the ball or doesn't understand when to get rid of the ball and doesn't protect himself. And this is now 2 years in a row where after 3 or 4 games, he's missing consecutive weeks. And then the other thing about this, Mike, and I don't think at any point your guy there, who's the coach? Is it Steichen? Is it Steichen in Indianapolis?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think at any point Shane Steichen is going to cut bait on Anthony Richardson and turn to Joe Flacco. But the fact is that Joe Flacco looks great in that offense. So that's the thing. I'm not necessarily saying, hey, listen, I don't think Anthony Richardson is a good player. I don't think if he was healthy that he would put up numbers because he does. He was quarterback 4 in week 1 with only 19 pass attempts. But the thing is, he just can't stay healthy. And that's something that has to be taught. And that player has to be willing to learn that. Like we're seeing Jaden Daniels being taught how to be a smarter quarterback. Same thing with Tua, right? You have to be taught how to be a smarter quarterback, and you have to want to be. So yeah, Mike, for me, it's just a player that I can't necessarily say I'm panicking on, but if there was an opportunity to move on, given a right price tag, and I don't know what that is because the situation is so fluid, I would do that. Like if I could just move on from Anthony Richardson to Bo Nix, whatever that would be, I'd be happy to do so because I'm watching Bo Nix play decent football with a pretty bad supporting cast in Denver. So, I still believe in the talent that Anthony Richardson has. I just don't know if he's going to be able to alter his play style to a successful NFL quarterback where he takes care of himself and his body and is around for more than 2 or 3 weeks at a time.
I agree. And I'm about at a 7 just because of how much time he's missed. And I understand that, you can still take those mental reps. Players talk about that a lot, and that's all well and fine in certain positions, not for a quarterback. Quarterback, there's a lot of things, timing. And Anthony Richardson was a very raw prospect. I still think to this day he should have came back for another year in college and polished and refined his game. And a lot of people are like, and I understand why he didn't. He wanted to get the first round draft capital. He wanted to get financially set. I get it. I'm worried he gets hurt too much. He is not the most accurate guy. I think last I checked, he had a 50.3 or 50.4% completion percentage. That's not good. And can he do it with his legs? Yes, but if he's putting himself in harm's way, that's not good. Zach, you pretty much covered it all well there. So we had some buys this past week, and that were the Chiefs, the Vikings, the Rams, and the Dolphins. So got some players coming back. Who are some players that you're going to be looking to try to snag off those bye weeks? They're going to be playing the rest of the year. Who's one for you, Zach?
For me, Mike, it's going to be Cooper Kupp. He looked phenomenal week 1, and then you kind of got what you're going to get with Cooper Kupp, which is injuries. But I think you can either find a team that maybe still wants to get off, even though he's probably practicing this week, that wants to get off Cooper Kupp, or his injury damaged the team so poorly that their chances of making the playoffs have been significantly impacted. You can jump in and try and grab Cooper Kupp at this point. Went on to Fantasy Calc, looked up some recent Cooper Kupp trades in the last couple of days. Got some really interesting ones here. I got Cooper Kupp for Rashid Shaheed and Chase Brown. It's a very interesting one both ways. A little bit younger for one side, a little bit more veteran experience on the other. This one really got to me at my heartstrings here because I totally get what they're doing. But Cooper Kupp for Chris Olave straight up. Chris Olave continues to be the DJ Moore of the modern generation. Yeah. And then I even saw Cooper Kupp for DJ Moore straight up. So that's kind of pick your flavor there. A lot of missed opportunities with DJ Moore in Chicago, and now you're seeing Keenan Allen kind of blossom. At some point, Roma Dunze is going to come around, and good Lord, Cole Kmet looks great in that offense when they stop using Gerald Everett and stop being ridiculous like they were in weeks 1 and 2. So really interesting trades there. The Chris Olave one still pulls my heartstrings because I really like Chris Olave's talent, but his situation is crap. Derek Carr is a crappy quarterback still, even though he bamboozled me weeks 1 and 2. And sometimes Olave can't get out of his own way because I think he's had 3 or 4 concussions now in 3 years. So it's just something that we need to keep an eye on. But I'm going after Cooper Kupp here, a player that already had a bye week, and I no longer have to worry about that coming up here, Mike.
Yeah, he is practicing this week. Status for this This weekend is up in the air, but he's trending in the right direction. Zach, I love that call. I'm going after TJ Hawkinson. We talk about a player coming off injury towards ACL last year in December, I believe it was, against the Detroit Lions, who he could possibly play against this week in week 7. I'm not going to say that he's going to smash right away, but look, the tight end position overall, Zach, has been a mess this year. Look, Tucker Kraft, as of this recording, is tight end 5 on the season. I didn't see that one coming. Okay. If you would have said, hey, he's going to finish his top 10 tight end, I would have been like, all right, I could see a possibility where that happens. But tight end 5, insane. I don't know if he keeps it up. And, former and expected standouts such as Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews are tight end 12 and 19, respectively. Sam Laporta, we talked about before, he's tight end 16 right now. Bonkers. So this would be a big boost for both the Minnesota Vikings and your fantasy team overall. Punched up fantasy calc again, got some trades for you. Some of these are a little wonky, but hey, you want a premium player? We know what he could do in the past. You got to pay premium prices. Zach, I need your help on these. Tyreek Hill and Rico Dowdle for TJ Hawkinson and Michael Pittman Jr.
Yeah, I like that. It's a very interesting. I like both sides of it, depending on what the team dynamics are. That's a trade to me that makes sense for both parties.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. Obviously, certain teams have certain needs. Sounds like everybody's getting helped out here. Josh Downs in a 26th second for TJ Hawkinson and a 26th fifth.
Okay, I'll take it. I'm hoping that's a tight end premium league because Josh Downs has looked pretty good. Now, you could also say Josh Downs will not look good if Anthony Richardson is the quarterback. So there's that.
That's a good point. And you could say the same thing in reverse about Alec Pierce. He only looks good when Anthony Richardson's the quarterback. So, and last one, I talked about Colby Parkinson just a moment ago. Somebody paid Colby Parkinson a 25 first, a 27 first for TJ Hawkinson and a 27 second.
It's a lot of first round picks for TJ Hawkinson.
That is.
Needs to be a 2-point premium, right? Or a 1-point premium, I should say.
I'm thinking so, but I don't think Colby Parkinson is a long-term solution, both on your fantasy team and for the Rams. Tyler Higbee will be back at some point, and I'm not going to sit here and say that I think Tyler Higbee is going to be relevant necessarily. He's going to be getting snaps, which will make Colby Parkinson irrelevant. So you're basically sending a declining asset and 2 first-round picks for what could be a top 5 tight end and a second. So I think as of this recording, it's a slight overpay. In the long run, I feel like that's a trade that will work out. Guys, we got some great new merch in our spread shop. Link is below. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast anywhere podcasts are found, preferably Spotify, if you will. 5-star review on all podcast platforms would be amazing as well. Make sure you hit subscribe here. As Zach and I mentioned, check out our Discord. So for Zach, I'm Mike. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.